Hello, welcome. We're going to start on our mat today, just in child's pose, to really stretch out through the back and to prepare our spine for some lunging, hip opening. And we're going to take it pretty slow here. So really focusing on spinal alignment, getting the pelvis in the right position in order to open the hips safely. Let's come into that child's pose position and we take slow, deep breaths to open up through the lungs and prepare ourselves for our practice. Remembering here, if child's pose isn't right for you, if taking the hips all the way back to the heels isn't right, and you prefer to come into a puppy pose, you can by allowing the hips to stack over knees and walking the hands forward from there. You can also come into a downward facing dog as a replacement for this position. It's okay on the knees, hips back towards them, towards those heels, and chest dropping down towards the mat. Now your forehead may or may not touch the mat, and I never get too worried about getting all the way down. If the openness isn't there for you today and it feels strange just to let the head hang, you can stack a fist and a fist, placing at the forehead. Feeling the hips pressing back now. Start to invite your breath a bit deeper. And in order to open up around the back, either side of the spine, you're going to encourage your breath into the back muscles, between the ribs, around the side waist. Think about the back side of your heart as well. The posterior side of your heart. The heart space that faces in towards the spine. Pressing your palms down into the earth. I want you to see if you can breathe space into there, creating some lightness of being. And that way you might also feel around the shoulder blades, in the mid-back region, opening up as well. It's like we're expanding ourselves in 4 directions, thinking about the diamond shape of a kite. In this child's pose, we are going from crown of head to tailbone, expanding there, but also from shoulder to shoulder. Take one more breath here. Let it all go. Now we're going to start to warm up, coming down onto our bellies. Anywhere that you'd like to get in there. It might be you're taking a full chaturanga here, but if you're in this child's pose, suck the elbows in and you can come through, chin, and then chest sliding forward in that caterpillar motion. Once you're there, press the tops of your feet down, zip up through the thighs, through the glutes. We want some activation there as we start to launch the chest on upwards. And I'm holding there with the strength of my back. Leading with the crown of the head, opening through the chest, through the throat just a little bit. But I'm not going to crank back. I want some looseness to the neck. As we exhale, we'll start to drop it down. I'm going to press down with those hands again, lifting the pelvis first. So I'm using the strength of my arms to bring me all the way back. And once again, landing those hips down towards the heels, resting the chest down. Once again, let's do that one. Gaze forward between the thumbs. Elbows are in, chin, chest coming forward. Substitute this if this is not the right way for you to get down. I'm going to demonstrate another variation on the next 2 rounds. Squeezing shoulder blades, heart beaming forward, zipping up through the glutes, baby little back bend there, strengthening the back. And let's come on back. Lift pelvis first, use the arms, drifting yourself all the way back. You have an option to stay with that one. Or of course, if you're coming into your downward facing dog, now spread those fingers nice and wide. Allow the heels to drop. Thumbs feel like they're pulling a little bit towards each other, activating through the upper body. And getting that space now through the back line of the body. Nice big V shape here. As we inhale, we'll come forward into that plank, kicking heels away, torso beams forward, crown of the head, moving away from the heels. A little bit of a bend through the elbows, make sure you haven't locked them now. And then we'll come forward, drifting to the tiptoes, bringing it down, rolling over those toes, lifting upwards, still activating through the thighs and the glutes. And exhaling, we work it back to downward facing dog. Now remembering you've got that other option there to come forward in your caterpillar. Let's take 3 deep breaths, whether we're in child's pose now or in our downward facing dog. Last round, whichever variation you'd like to come into, finding either that chaturanga or caterpillar to a back bend, staying for a breath or two, and then working yourself back, down dog or child's pose. Now from here we're going to come into a lunging position. You can make this a low lunge or a high lunge. I'm going to do both today. So we're going to take a foot forward. I'm taking my right foot forward to begin with. And I'm going to drop my back knee down. You can keep yours lifted if you prefer. Hands are going to come to the thigh. Then from there I'm going to bring that right thigh in towards the pelvis. Lifting the heart up, taking a nice deep breath there. I'm not lunging so far forward that I'm losing control of this, okay? So there is an activation still to keep both hip points facing forward. And I like to sometimes take my hands to my pelvis and actually feel for that biofeedback. Has one hip rolled forward? Has one hip hiked higher than the other? And I'm trying to even it up. And that can be quite challenging, quite difficult. I can also check one hand to the belly, one hand to the lower back, and ask myself, is that a good position for my back to be in? Particularly if you have any lower back issues, you may want to come a little ways out of this in order to keep it safer. So, hip opening with safety for our spine today. And remember just to take this slow. It is going to take a while for the body to open. It's usually when we want to rush through a pose to get to that stretch quicker that we end up doing damage, that we end up bringing ourselves into pain. So take your time and allow the hips to open slowly. Now from here, if you've got your hand still on your thigh, whether it's a high or a low lunge, then slowly starting to work our way out. Hands are going to come down here towards the feet. From here, I'm going to pick that back knee up. And taking the heel back, launching the heart forward. Nice deep breaths. And again, if that's not right for you, just pop the knee down again. You can do that as many times as you'd like. Now, taking a big deep breath in, let's take this right foot back and transfer to the other side. Hips are going to come backwards towards the back of the mat. Really still pressing back. And then here the opposite foot is going to come forward. And again, I'm going to pop that knee down for some support here. You feel free to come into a higher lunge if that works for you. I'm always just checking
that my knee is stacked over my ankle, that it's not coming forward there. You may see people in different practices, lunging to here, and I just find for the stability of the knee, it's best that we've got more support underneath it. There's less knee flexion there. Again, I'm just going to check in, make sure I'm not collapsing, which is, some people are tight, some people are open, and we're going to make adjustments depending where we're at. If you're one of those people that's really tight, you might need deeper stretch. If you're one of those people that is very flexible, chances are you don't need the deeper stretch. Chances are you need the stability. So if you're one of those people, you're pulling it back a little bit. Again, checking in with lower back. Checking in with hips and pelvis. Opening up here through the psoas muscle on this back leg, doing so safely, keeping it all in alignment. I'm still pressing down here with my big toe as well. That's going to help me activate through Mula Bandha, my pelvic floor lock. That little bit of a zipping up through the thigh. It's kind of like I'm squeezing my thighs towards each other, and pressing down with that big toe helps me access the inseam of my thigh. Yeah? That's going to help me brace through that soft tissue that's keeping everything in. Okay, so supporting our internal organs. Smooth muscle there activating. From there I'm going to release. Hands are going to come down, framing that front foot, and this back knee can pop away from the earth if it's comfortable for us to do so. If it's not, please take some extra height. You might need some props there, or you can always just stay with the back knee down, fingertips to earth if you can reach. Hold for a couple of breaths here. Now, sometimes it's nice to go to knuckles, sometimes it's nice to go to fingertips, you decide. I've got a little bit of softness on that back knee, but I'm thinking about the thigh, the upper region of the thigh, where the thigh meets the buttock. And I'm going to see if I can lift from there to open up through the hip. I'm still thinking about the thigh connecting into my pelvis though, so it's like I'm pulling in as I'm kicking the heel back. One more breath. And then we'll bring it back. Downward facing dog. This time around, we're going to add a little bit of a high lunge. So again, it's not right for you, keep that knee soft to the earth. But otherwise, I'm going to come and I'm just going to widen my stance a little bit. I'm going to bring my hands to my thigh again and settle back into this same position. So really working my right thigh into right pelvis, keeping a little bit of softness in this left knee. I'm going to hang out here for a couple of breaths. Again, I can use my hands if I need to, but by keeping that back knee soft, chances are I'm not dipping into lower back too much there. You can still get some really nice activation by kicking the heel away and opening up through the calf muscle with the knee bend. Think about your strength and power. Really try and tap into that inner strength around the belly, bringing it in. Unless you're prenatal, you're going to think about bringing that belly towards spine and maybe lifting it a little bit towards the lower ribs. So in and up. A little bit of a tuck there. Inhaling now and bringing our hands down. Once again, kicking the heel back, opening up through the heart. Now this time we can walk our hands to the inside edge of our right foot. Step the right foot out a step or two. Use a block or a cookbook or a dictionary, anything with height that you've got around your home if you cannot get here. I find a footstool is also really handy. Gives me a little extra room if I need it. I'm going to take a couple of breaths. And then back foot here is going to hop in towards the front. Now this is a tricky transition. So again, if you're in your low lunging position, you're going to come out. Now come back to your child's pose. And then when you're ready, step it into this garland pose. From here, pressing palms together, lifting the heart, allowing the hips to melt. Now I'm going to walk it all the way back. I'm going to come into my downward facing dog here. Once again, setting that reset button. Really, when we come into down dog or child's pose, it's an opportunity to come back to a neutral position for the spine, for the pelvis, and just hit that reset button mentally. Same thing's happening with my left foot here. I step it forward, finding this high lunge position. So my legs might be a little bit wider. Yeah, if you tend to be fairly turned out through the hips, then you will need to go a little bit wider. And we drop down into it. And that's mostly for women. Most men are a little narrower through the hips, so they could have the feet a bit closer towards each other as well. I checked to see my big toe, and I do that quite unconsciously, so I'm just going to say that I can see my big toe. If I can't see my big toe, my knee has probably rolled inwards, okay? So it's about a little bit of an external rotation here on this outer thigh, this front thigh, so I've got a little bit of movement outwards to stabilise again, keeping my knee in line with my hip. Focusing on lifting the chest, pulling the belly in, getting that space rising up the spine. Again, taking it slow, don't be afraid of holding. It calls on something else. It calls on a different kind of strength to stay in a pose rather than rushing through it. So we're tapping into that area of stamina, of staying power, of seeing this through. And no doubt we've been using a lot of that power recently. So from there, hands are going to come down. I'm framing the front foot first. Yeah, and then I walk both hands to the inside edge of that left foot. Step it out once or twice, and nice and long. And again, I'm thinking about thigh lifting. If this isn't right for you, knee is down, by the way. It's totally okay to have the knee down. In a moment, of course, we're going to come into that garland pose again. It's kind of a squat at the front of our mat. If you have the knee down here, as I mentioned before, you might have to get this front foot to come backwards first. So I would work it around into a child's pose and then step forward. Take a foot forward, take the other foot forward, work it out, hips come down. Okay, so that could be a transition for you rather than trying to get into that from a low lunging position, which is a lot harder. You're in that higher lunging position with the knee away, of course you can step it forward if that transition is right for you. Here I'm going to get a little bit more lift through the chest, and I'm going to start to, if it's okay for my knees, give it a little bit of a figure eight rock. Back in the opposite direction. And now I'm going to start to bring it down onto the bottom. So from here, I'm going to take a hand back behind me, launch the hips down and launch the feet forward. If that transition isn't right for you, again, find another one where you are stretching the legs up and then stepping it down knee by knee. From here, soles of the feet are towards each other. Okay, we're coming into a little bit of a turtle pose. So this one, there is a diamond shape. To begin with, I'm going to take it into a bit of a twist. So one hand is coming back behind me, the other hand is crossing across the knee. I'm going to lift upwards. If the knee is too far to reach, because this is a different shape than Sukhasana, cross-leg position, we take it to the less intense knee. Okay, make it a twist there instead. Just get your heart around a little bit. Keep lifting, lengthening. Here we're contracting around the muscles of the spine in order to move the shoulders around. So you should feel this in the left side, contracting and opening through that right side. One more back, turn in the opposite direction. So I'm taking my right hand back behind me, that left hand coming across knee, or I could make it less intense. And on this side, I'm going to start to feel the muscles around the side waist and around the spine, contracting on that right side and opening on the left. Making my breath slow and purposeful. And releasing from here, taking both hands and threading them through the legs now. Adding a forward fold. So I might catch hold of the feet. If this is not comfortable for you in any way, you can just drape the arms across the legs and grab a hold of the feet. But from here, I'm lifting the torso forward, getting nice and long through the spine, and I'm going to encourage a round this time in towards the upper back. So around the shoulder blades. I'm going to drop the head towards the heels. Softening any tension through the neck. Inhaling, we'll lift the chest, lift the chin. And then we're going to come back into that one as our final position today. So again, hands might thread through, lifting heart, exhaling, coming on forward. Just like in child's pose at the start of class, really trying to open up and access the upper back here, the mid-back region, in order to breathe into those ribs. Releasing when you're ready. Now, up to you if you want to come onto your back now for your Shavasana or stay in a seated position. Close your eyelids down. Focus on the heart rate, on the breath. Tap into that space again around the heart. You might like to imagine your heart in the center of your chest, just floating. You might like to imagine that there is an expansive region here. You're filling it with air every time you breathe. And your heart just off to the left slightly. It's just floating like a balloon within this space. Left and the right cavity of the chest, filling with air. Take that lightness of being into your day. Thank you so much for your attention. Namaste.